It is the 15th of December. This is Sendik substituting for Rabbi Levitt. Gemorrah. Thank you.
Ran Pechet Amabet 88b. Let me catch myself up in the sugya. Correct me if I miss any steps. We had a story. We had a case where there was a second marriage. A woman had nechosim. She entered a marriage with property. When a woman passes away, her husband inherits her. But that's not what she wanted. She wanted to pass on her property to her own son. So she wrote a shtar. She bequeathed her nechosim to her son, whose name was Rabbi Shmuel bar Abba. And then, in fact, she passed away. Then there was a court case. Who gets the property? Is that gift a valid gift? While she was married, she had kinyan haguf. She owned the land itself. Her husband, also confusingly named Rabbi Abba, had the payrolls, had the right to eat the proceeds of his wife's property. So the wife had the kinyan haguf, and the husband had the kinyan payrolls. Who was the real owner? Do we say kinyan payrolls ke kinyan haguf dami? The true owner is the husband, and therefore any gift that the wife gives is invalid? Or do we say kinyan haguf remains with the wife and her gift is valid? Then we tried to bring a raya from a case other than marriage, from a case of a sale. Somebody owned property and they made a gift la'achar misa. They said this property should belong to you mehayom la'achar misa. That means that the payrolls remain with the giver. And the guf, the actual karka, already belongs to the seller. The recipient then gave it as a gift before the giver passed away. So we seem to have the same case. The owner of the guf made a gift. We want to know, is that gift valid or not? And it seems that the gift is valid. Not only is the gift valid, we wanted to say that even if the recipient passed away before ever receiving the actual payrolls, the gift would still be valid. So it seems that kinyan payrolls lav ki kinyan haguf dami. Good so far. I mean, that's what we've covered in the sugya. We had a machlokas. Then
One thing that you didn't say was that in the case of the Mishnah, it's the son.
It's the son. That's very specific.
Father gives it to the son.
That might be very important. Right?
Yeah, it comes up because of the inheritance.
In other words, it might be different than the usual case of kinyan haperos and kinyan haguf. Because the son was the one who received the guf, this is not a regular kinyan, this is not a regular gift. It's as if he has payrolls too. One day he will inherit the whole field, right? So maybe this is a strengthened example of kinyan haguf. It's a kinyan haguf where he stands to inherit the whole thing. So maybe then and only then is his gift to the lokeach valid. Maybe that's a good place to pick up. Just so I don't come in the middle. I understand Rabbi Levitt told me yesterday that he started from Abaye. But maybe just so I don't want to jump in the middle, let me back up about 4 lines to the last narrow line. Adrua l'kamed Rav Yehuda. Since I understand that you've covered this already, right? So maybe I'll just read.
Yes. I see where you are. You're on 88B2, right-hand column, second to the last paragraph.
Okay, let me pick up and stop me if I miss any important points. Because if I'm not mistaken, you've seen this once. They returned the case back to Rav Yehuda, who is the one who paskined that the property should go to the husband, to Rabbi Abba. Amar lahu hachi amar Shmuel zo eno dome lemishnasenu. This case of the husband and his wife's property is not similar to the Mishnah about the lokeach, about simply sale of property. So there are two ways we can interpret this. My taimo, Amar of Yosef. I'll tell you why. Because the son, this is what you mentioned. The son, when he receives a gift, that's a son has a very strong ownership in his father's property because he stands to inherit. Amar of Yosef, Bishlama itani ipcha. Had the Mishnah taught the opposite, Hakosef nechosav la'oviv, that it was the son who wrote over his property to his father, then you could in fact compare it to our Mishnah, to our case of the Ksuba rather. Iko lemifshat mina, we would be able to learn out from this the kinyan peos lav ki kinyan aguf dami. Meaning, if we would say that the father received the gift and then the father sold it to somebody else, and we would say that was valid, that shows that the father's kinyan aguf is the kinyan that wins. Ela hashto the katani akosiv nechosav liv. No, now that this is not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says it was the father writing to the son, and we're saying that the son's gift is valid. It's not because kinyan aguf is so strong, but rather mishum deroi liyorshahu. This is what you're saying. It's because the son stands to inherit from the father. He has a super strong kinyan aguf because it's coming to him one day anyway. But maybe the husband, who has a kinyan aguf in his wife's no, that's not true. The husband has a kinyan peros in the wife's property. Maybe the wife who has the kinyan aguf in the property, which is meshuabat to her husband, maybe that's not so strong. Maybe she cannot give it as a gift. All right, so is that what we're up to, Amalei Abaye? Or this is still yesterday's Gemara?
That's what we're up to.
That's what we're up to. Okay, beautiful. Who'd like to pick it up? Thank you for your patience, gentlemen. I feel a little bit more caught up in the sugya.
It was a good review.
Right, let's begin together then. Who wants to start us off? Lou, you want to begin?
Okay. Amar le Abaye. Abaye said to Rabbi Yosef, Asu bara yaris Abba. Why is it that the son, I'm sorry, it's a rhetorical question.
Right.
Why does a son inherit a father? Abba lo yaris bara, and a father does not inherit a son? Ella, no, rather, li av ruchin hu mi be re ka ase. Rather, the son was coming to keep the possession away from his own son. In other words, there's a father, a son, and a grandson. And the reason that the son deeded the property to his father is not because the father doesn't inherit the son. The father does inherit the son. It's just that the father is second in line to the grandson. And therefore, if he doesn't want the grandson to get it, so he's going to deed it.
We're not trying to use natural inheritance to strengthen the deed. Right?
Right, the opposite.
Correct.
Hacha nami le'av ruchina hu le nichse ma'ahu ha ase. Here also, the father was intending to keep the possessions away from the brothers. So in other words, he's gonna say, yeah, but you can apply a similar principle to the case of our Mishnah, and
Right.
say that the reason that the father deeded it to the son was because he didn't want the brothers to get it.
Right. Here too, natural Yerusha, inheritance, does not help this deed. It doesn't enhance the Kinyan Aguf. If anything, it's working against it. What did we do now? What we just accomplished, just one sentence, what we just accomplished now, we don't know yet why Zo Eino Dome LeMishnah Seinu. Shmuel said that our case of the wife deeding the property away from the husband is not similar to this Mishnah. We thought that's because here inheritance helps out the Koach, the Kinyan Aguf. There's an extra factor of the power of inheritance. What Abai has just done is he's discounted that. It's the power of inheritance cannot make the Kinyan Aguf any stronger. So we're back to square one. We don't know yet why Zo Eino Dome LeMishnah Seinu, why the cases are not comparable. Okay, thank you, Lou. Any questions so far? Maybe let's before we give why in fact they are incomparable. Let's see Rashi on what we just read. Where are we up to so far in Rashi?
Hachanami is the place where I think we did not read yet.
Okay.
It's from the bottom of the Rashis. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 9 lines up. First one of the line is Hacha.
Okay, good. I got it. Hacha nami. So too here. Hakosev lechosav livno. One who deeds his property to his son. Vadai bone achriti islay. Certainly, he has other sons. La'avruchinu me'echav, meaning what? Misha'ar banav shal'av, hu dekatav lei. Why did he write this deed? In order to spirit the property away from his brothers, meaning the brothers of the recipient, which are the other sons of the giver. From the fact that nonetheless the halacha is the lokeach, in this case the recipient of the deed, if the son sold the property to a third party, a lokeach, a buyer, that buyer gets the property. Rashi continues, Shema mina. We can, in fact, learn from here that kinyan peros lav ki kinyan haguf domi, which would mean that going back to our central case of the mother, the mother of who wrote her property to her son Rabbi Shmuel bar Abba. It should mean that Rabbi Shmuel bar Abba's kinyan as a husband does not take effect, and that deed should be valid. So why did Shmuel say Zo Eino Dome LeMishnah Seinu?
I'm sorry. Could you review that Rashi again? I lost the flow. When you got to Shema Mina, I lost the flow of why we're learning from this.
Okay. Let me just add in one sentence beforehand. we thought that this is a super strong kinyan aguf, right? The son who received this deed has a strong kinyan aguf because he also has Yerusha.
Right.
Right. Now that we see that no, we're working against Yerusha, and nonetheless the deed is valid. Shemami, jumping back into Rashi, Shemami no, Kinyan Peros, Lav ki Kinyan Aguftami. That why is the deed valid? Because we really hold across the board that Kinyan Peros, the right to eat the Peros, does not mean Kinyan Aguf, does not mean ownership of the property. In this case, what did that mean? When the father gave the Guf HaKarka to the son, and the right to eat the Peros remains by the father, we disregard the rights of the father. We say the son is the real owner. And if he sells that to somebody else, that sale is valid. So let's apply that across the board. Kinyan Peros lav ki Kinyan Aguftami.
So the husband should not have the rights to take from the son, because the wife, the mother, had the ownership of the goof.
Right. And the husband only had the Peros.
And that's because in this case, since the father wanted to prevent the grandson from inheriting, his deeding the property to the son was not strengthened by the inheritance, it was weakened by it.
Right. There's no extra strings attached over here. It's a regular Kinyan Peros, Kinyan Gov situation. There's no extra aspect of Ro'i Liyerusha, fit to inherit. That doesn't help him. This was all an interjection. Right? Shmuel asserted Zo Eino Doma L'Mishnah Seinu. Rav Yosef took a stab at it to explain why is it Eino Doma L'Mishnah Seinu. Abaye deflected that suggestion. What we're going to have to do now is give an alternate suggestion. Why did Shmuel say Zo Eino Doma L'Mishnah Seinu? Rav Yosef thought it should be because of Ro'i Liyerusha. And Abaye said, no, there's no extra advantage. There's no, that's Abaye had said that's not a correct analysis of this case of the father giving a gift to the son. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's royally Yerusha, because there are other sons also ready to inherit. All right, let's carry on to the next line. Any volunteers for reading the next line of Gemorrah? We're up to Elam Mai, 4 lines from the bottom.
But wait a second.
Yes.
You skipped the last step, which was to say that we can also say something similar in the case of the mother and wife, that that she didn't want the brothers to get it.
I don't think that's the case. The first line of inheritance for a married woman is her husband. The Yerusha is by him.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, I'm reading Hakanami the Av Duchuna who Lenikse may Achos Ase. So here there's a desire to keep the possessions away from the brothers. This is what the case of the father that deeds it to the son?
Correct. Because that son has other brothers. Natural Yerusha would be that all the sons should share equally. Why is the father bothering to give a deed to the son, let natural Yerusha take its course. It must be that it's not natural Yerusha. There are other brothers, and this father happens to want all of the property to go to this one son.
But didn't we already establish a similar principle about the grandson?
In the end, you're right. It's similar. The question is, why does it work? By which mechanism does it work? Once again, the halacha is, if the son or the father would receive such a deed, either way, and he then sells it to a third party, to a lokeach, the Mishnah tells us the sale is valid. The Gemorrah wants to know, why is the sale valid? Is it regular, plain old kinyan haperos lavki kinyan haguf dami? And therefore, the one who has the guf, the one who has the guf hakarka can make a sale? Or is this supercharged kinyan haguf? It's kinyan haguf plus ro'ui liyarusha, fit to inherit. Abaye says, no, he's not fit to inherit. There are many others who are in line to inherit. It must be regular old kinyan peros lavki kinyan haguf dami. The one who owns the guf is the one who can make a gift, the one who can make a sale.
Okay, so I'm still unclear. Why do we need this hachanami? It seems like we have everything we need before we said hachanami.
Rav Yosef had suggested when the father deeds his property to a son, that son can then go ahead and make a sale, even though he only has the guf and not the peros. Rav Yosef suggested, why is that so? This is because this is not regular kinyan haguf. This is special kinyan haguf that's ro'ui liyorsha. Kinyan haguf that he stands to inherit the whole thing anyway. So maybe it's unique. And maybe a regular kinyan, the one who holds the kinyan haguf cannot go ahead and make a sale to somebody else. Abaye pointed out there's no such thing as ro'ui liyorsha, because there are brothers. There are other brothers who should have inherited with him.
No. He says there's a son, there's a grandson.
Yes. In the case of the son who gives to the father, there's a grandson. And in the case, and in an exactly parallel fashion, when the father gives to the son, there are other brothers.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Either way, if we say that the recipient of the gift, right, the owner of the kinyan haguf has the right to make a sale, that means kinyan peros lavki kinyan haguf dami. With no enhancements, right? Therefore, we don't yet know why Shmuel said that our case of the wife and husband, when the husband has kinyan haperos and the wife has kinyan haguf, why should that be different? Why is that zo eino domer lemishnah seinu?
Right, I'm with you.
Okay, great. All right, let's see why that should be. We're up to Elamai, 4 lines from the bottom. And would anyone like to read?
I'll read. Okay.
Thank you, Roy.
Elamai ina dami lamash nisno. Rather, what is the meaning of this case is not analogous to our Mishnah? Mishum takanas Usha, because of the enactment of Usha. Doma Rabbi Yosei Chadina for Rav Yossi bar Chanina said, Ba'usha has in Usha they enacted Aisha Shemachra bin Chisei Malok B'chaye Ba'ala Umasah. If a woman sold Malok property in her husband's lifetime and subsequently died, Ba'al Matzi Miyad Al-Chos, the husband removes the property from the possession of the purchasers. The husband can take the property back.
Ooh. It
And
was specific.
the Ascroll adds here that since this enactment gives the husband stronger than usual rights based on his ownership of the produce, Rab Abba could block his wife's gift to Rab Shmuel bar Abba.
Very good. So why is it Zo Eino Domer L'Mishnah say no? Because there's a specific takana regarding a husband and a wife. Usually kinyan peros lav ke kinyan aguf dami, but the husband's kinyan peros is strengthened by the chachamim. The husband, the owner of the peros, he's the real owner. And if the wife sells it or gifts it, the husband can take it away. Okay, beautiful. Why would this be?
So does this mean then that the one who controls the parish controls the field, owns a whole lot?
Only in regards to a husband.
Beg your pardon?
Only in regards to a husband.
Yes, that's right.
When we're talking about nichse milug,
yeah,
even though the husband only owns the peros, he eats the produce of the field. He doesn't own the field itself. Nevertheless, the wife cannot sell or gift that field during her husband's lifetime. It's a specific takana that the Chachamim made specifically in this case. And therefore, all of our sources about matana of a field from a father to a son, those were not relevant. There are specific rules governing the nechasim of the wife and the husband.
There were red herrings.
Once again?
There were red herrings.
Okay. Right, those were our two choices. When we said Zo Eino Doma L'Mishnah Seinu, either the case of the father to the son was unique, or the case of the husband to the wife was unique. So we rejected the first possibility. Now we're going to the second possibility. Let's learn Rashi. Let's learn the Rashi. But Usha Hitkinu. Just as an aside, a historical note, Usha is the name of a place, probably a town in the Galil. I don't know what's it called nowadays. We can look into it. There's a Gemorrah somewhere that says the Sanhedrin made 10 stops. From one who was exiled from Yerushalayim, they stopped in 10 different cities in Eretz Yisrael until it finally had to be disbanded in Tiberia. It stopped in Yavne and Usha and Shefar'am. I don't remember all of them, but it's probably the name of a city in the Galil. All right, so the Sanhedrin was located in Usha at the time that they made this takana.
Okay.
Rashi says, the bottom Rashi, Be'usha hitkinu. De'af al-gav de'ba'alma, even though in general, in all of the rest of Torah, lav k'kinina gov dami, the owner of the peros, the one with the right to the peros, is not like kinina guf. He does not have the right to sell the fields. Rather, the owner of the guf has the right to sell the fields. However, Baal b'nichse ishto al mu'ar rabbanon l'shibudei. the Baal, the husband, in the property of his wife, the Rabbanan strengthened his shibud, his rights, his claims on the property. Why? Mishum Eva, lest he come to hatred. V'havei kilokeach rishon. He's like the first buyer, a previous buyer. Technically, he should only have kinyan peros. The Rabbanan made it as if by marrying her, he bought that land. Therefore, he comes first before any subsequent buyer. If during the marriage, she sells the karka on which his peros are growing, Takanas Usha will tell us that that sale is invalid. Has anybody heard that concept before? Mishum Eva? So as to prevent Eva, to prevent hatred?
Who's hating who?
Yes.
Lest the husband come to hate the wife.
Oh.
It might come up in Maseches Ksuvos. Let's say a lost object. You know, she's walking down the beach one day and she finds a treasure, a hefker item. So a lost object that's found by a wife belongs to the husband. There are certain takonos the Rabbanan made Mishum Eva. He's going to resent her. What, you kept it for yourself? You know, where's your gratitude? You know, I'm feeding you after all. You know, I'm providing for your mizonos. The least you can do, the husband would say, the least you can do is share the wealth with me. You know, it's to promote shalom and prevent resentment over little things such as money.
But this property belonged to the wife before the marriage.
Right.
So why does the husband feel he's entitled to it?
And now she's wheeling and dealing it.
She's
We
selling
know.
it. She's giving it to her son, whatever she wants to do. It's her property.
We know that if the wife passes away first, all the property goes to the husband. It's only if the husband passes away first that the property will revert to the wife. In essence, by making a business deal with the property, you know, she's telling her husband, listen, buddy, I think she's telling him, I think you're going to go first. That's not very good for the shalom bayis.
I don't follow.
Whenever a wife sells her property, it only will have an effect if he dies first. There are three possible outcomes to the marriage. He dies first, she dies first, or he divorces her. Right? If either he dies or divorces her, the nissa milug go back to her, and she collects her ksuba. If, however, the wife dies first, then it is all inherited by the husband, and all of the gifts are null and void.
Right. So if she sells it, then she is preventing him from having it if she dies. And he's angry about that.
Maybe that's the cause of the Eva.
I mean, I don't see it. What right does he have to be angry about that? He's saying, I'm angry at you because after I die, I'm going to lose out.
I thought there was something about that when you marry somebody, then the husband then gets all the possessions of the wife or something. I've got all that mixed up, have I?
There are two types. Roy, there are two types of arrangements that could be made. Either nichse milug or nichse tzon barzel. Right? We have to do something with all the wife's property that she brings into the marriage. Let's just review. We're talking about nichse milug. That property belongs to the wife, but in the meantime, during the course of the marriage, the husband can reap the profits. If it's land, he can sell the fruits. He can eat the fruits. Right? He can also wear out the property. He can plant it every year. Milug means to pluck it clean, like a goose that you pluck the feathers. Right? He can pluck it clean, and then return it to her all worn out if he chooses to, and he keeps the profits. The other option is nichsei tzon barzel, iron sheep. That property is written into the ksuba. He accepts upon himself, in the case of death or divorce, to pay its full current value, and then in essence, it's his. It doesn't matter if it appreciates or depreciates. That set amount he will pay out to her in the event that he pays out the ksuba. And so the husband is going to become involved in all of her property. The question is, they have to choose which property will be treated with which set of rules. Here we're talking about nichsei milug. It's hers, but he gets the profits. If, however, everybody knows that if she passes away first, whether it's nichsei milug or nichsei tzon barzel, the husband inherits everything. By selling her nichsei milug properly, she is showing that she doesn't want this to happen.
Right.
What happens to the proceeds from the sale?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think the Gemorrah will deal with it coming up. We would have to check it out. Is this called payrolls or payrolls to payrolls? Is this profits or profits of profits? It's a good question. I think the Gemorrah will deal with it coming up. Coming up on Peitet Amud Aleph. What happens to the proceeds from the sale? Let's just note that in the case that brought up this whole discussion, it happened to be a gift. She gifted the land to her son, so there are no proceeds. It was a free gift. And the question concerns the land itself. Was the gift valid or not? Any questions, gentlemen? Okay. All right. Let's keep our heads on straight, and we'll try to carry on in the sugya. What we just learned is that there's a specific takanas usha just for cases like this. Already in the times of the Tanoim, there was a takana that the husband should get the property. All right, who wants to carry on in the Gemorrah? Let's see, who's here today? Oh, I don't have a touch screen. Let's try my mouse. Alan, would you like to read a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to start again at
2 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Idi.
It's on 88B4 on the top left.
okay. So the Gemara supports the explanation. Rab Edi Bar Orvi, Rabbi Edi Bar Orvi said, a non me to a Gemorrah, you also learned of the enactment of Usha in a Barisa. Yidin Ornu Ish Baloni Shigerish Ace S Asa To Norsan Kisu or Sora. If witnesses said, we testify about this and this person that he divorced his wife and gave her Kasuba.
Hooray! We finished 88.
Ray Mishto, and in fact she was living with him and serving him. But the Nimsa who so mean, and they were found to be Zoman. Ein Omarim, Yishalamu, Call, Kusu, or Saw. We do not say that they should pay her the entire Kusuba, Elor Tovor, Hanor Ace, Kusobor Saw, but rather the discounted amount of her Kusuba.
Let's pause for a moment and think about this. What's the case? We know, how do we usually punish Edom Zomerman? They get
what they tried to do.
right. This is a nefarious plot. They go up to a happily married couple and they gave edus. They might look like they're married. No, they're divorced. They're living together, but you know what happened? The husband actually divorced her, and he paid out the ksuba already. And then it's discovered that they're lying. They're Edom Zomerman. How do we punish them? How much money did they actually make the wife lose? In fact, they're still married, and it was claimed that the husband already divorced and paid out the ksuba.
So the wife lost the ability to collect her kasuva, would have lost the ability to collect her kasuva.
Right.
So we should say that they have to pay the wife the amount of the kasuva.
Right. That's what I would think. The
But
full
that's not
value.
what it says.
That's not what it says. They don't pay the full value of the ksuba. They give tovas hanoas kasuvasa. You know, the amount of hana that she gets from having a ksuba.
So in other
The
words,
value of the advantage of having a ksuba.
so in other words,
Except,
if she
they do
wanted
that.
to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Roy.
No, sorry, I was just asking how do they assess that? So no,
I was going to say, if she wanted to sell her kasuva,
Right.
so the buyer of her kasuva would say to himself, if they get divorced or the husband dies before the wife, then I'm going to get X dollars.
Right.
But
Full
if
payment.
she dies first, I'm going to get nothing.
Zero.
So therefore, I'm not going to pay the full value of the ketuva because I'm taking a risk that I might get nothing. I'm going to pay a smaller amount. And basically, I'm taking a risk. I'm an investor. It's like any investor who takes a risk, he gets a discounted amount. Like if you buy a bond, then you're banking on the fact that the company that issued the bond isn't going to get bankrupt, and that you're going to be able to hold out until the bond comes due, and so on and so forth. So all those contingencies are factored in to the price of the bond. So the same thing here. There's, if you could imagine, there was a kasuva market,
Okay.
then a kasuva would be evaluated by the marketplace, and a value would be arrived at, and that's the value that the purchaser would pay.
Right. So very good. So that would be the value that these Edom Zomerman, these lying Edom, would have to, the knas, the penalty that they would have to pay.
and so in this particular case, then who is buying? Who is interested in buying the ksuva? Somebody, a third party, someone out.
In theory, right?
Well,
Because in theory, a purchaser might wish to purchase it. So that is the way Beis Din will calculate how much the Edom Zomerman, the penalty that they must pay. There doesn't literally have to be a buyer, but that's how we would evaluate the value.
All right. But there could be a buyer as a matter of interest.
Yes.
Somebody would deal in this sort of thing.
Apparently so.
Wow. And could the Edom Zimmerman in this case deal in it? Would that be their purpose?
What, that they themselves want to purchase the ksuba?
Yeah.
No, that's not possible, because if they had succeeded, then the kasuva would be worth nothing,
Hmm.
right? If they had succeeded, then the court would have ruled that she's divorced and he already paid her kasuva. Therefore, she can't collect it second time.
Hmm.
So according to this false judgment, she would lose out completely.
Okay.
And the Zomamin couldn't benefit from it.
And factoring into the fine for the Zimmerman, would it be, there are other things too, like embarrassment and inconvenience and the trouble that they got into, that the husband and wife was put to, and anything else, any other offshoot of trouble, of loss?
That's a fascinating question. I don't know. We did have a concept in this parak of paying for embarrassment, but this sounds like indirect. What the fact that Adam and Zomerman, they just talk. The fact that Adam and Zomerman have to pay it all is a chiddush in the Torah.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if indirect damage could be collected in Beis Din.
I think I'd shoot them.
I hear one of the more nefarious plots we have in the Gemorrah.
That's too good for them, right?
It's a horrible thing to do, though. That's one of the reasons why I'm sort of asking about this.
All right, but let's focus on the monetary aspect. How much money did they make her stand to lose? They made her stand to lose not the whole ksuba, but the theoretical value of tovas hana, of being able to cash in on her ksuba now. And again, why are we bringing this in here now? Rav Idi Bar Oven had suggested tanina letakanas usha. We have a source in the Mishnayos or in the Braisos about takanas usha, that a wife cannot sell her nichsei milug and get away with it.
So could you repeat that, please? It didn't come quite through.
Sure. Why are we bringing in this case? Rav Idi Bar Oven wants to show that this halacha assumes that a woman cannot sell her property, her nichsei milug, at any given time and get away with it. That's takanas usha, right? If she sells her nichsei milug to the buyer, one day the husband might come and take it away. All right, so let's do another line or two in the Gemara.
Wait a second. I'm not following that. How does this prove that? The fact that
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Another couple of lines.
Okay.
Let's see. So let's pick up. The Gemara is up to third line.
The
Third
East
line of the Gemara.
What?
That's what we're up to? The Yisal Gadaitach?
Yeah, 80, 89. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I read ahead.
We're maybe exactly 3 lines above that. Ezehu Tovas Hanas Ketuvasa.
Right, I've got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down on the left-hand side.
Right.
No, left.
Correct, Roy.
Okay. Ezehu Tovas Hanas Ketuvasa. What is the value of the advantage of the ketubah? Omedim. So as you said outside, Lou, you analyzed the Gemara correctly. Omdim, we estimate. Kama adam yotza litain b'ktuvasa. How much would a potential investor be willing to give for the ketubah? Shelzo, of this woman. And the risk, she'imnis amrila omnis garisha. If she is widowed or divorced, then he will collect the entire ketubah. However, Mesa, on the other hand, if she dies first, Yuashena Baila, her husband will inherit her, and the investor will get nothing. All right, now for our purposes, and we'll say this again tomorrow, but let's just see Bekitzer. V'isalka daitoch. If you would think, Leisa l'takanas usha. If there was no such thing, Leisa, if there was not such a thing as takanas usha,
Are you,
Are you
there's no risk
frozen?
at all. Why would a husband ever has been kisuva so legamre completely? A wife who needs some fast cash. To an investor, and then 1 minute, you hear me? And then immediately sell her nichsei miluk property to others, leaving the husband with nothing. It must be that Takanas Usha is correct. That a wife cannot sell her nichsei miluk. And therefore, there's a difference between, therefore there'll be a monetary difference between Tovas Hana'ah and the full value of the ksuba. There's some aspect of the ksuba that the husband will always inherit. That's Edi Bar Arvin's proof. If a wife can sell her nichsei milug and get away with it, then she can always effectively collect her entire ksuba. There's no risk.
Why do you say entire kasuba? The nichsei malug is not the entire kasuba.
You're jumping ahead again. Yes, that will be the Gemorrah's answer.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Very good. All right, we might be out of time for today. B'ezras Hashem will resume tomorrow. Yashar Kol Hashem, looking forward.
Okay, sounds good.
thank
Okay.
you very much.
All the best. Have a great day.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, good day.
Alan, we're on today, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.